Government Affirmative Action Fund. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ian.
Pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Also joining us is Josephine Wanjiru, who is a gender activist. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ian.
I'm delighted that you guys could join me this particular morning.
Thank you.
Of course, we are expecting Honorable Elizabeth Karambo Kailemia, who is the woman representative for Meru County. She'll be joining us in not so long, just to help us dissect, because there are also matters, women leadership and what women leaders in the country are doing to address, cases that fall under GBV, to be specific, cases of femicide here in the country. Now, let me begin with you, Viridiana, because I saw you've worn a T-shirt written "Enough is enough." Yes. Reset and GBV.
And
now,
GBV.
Yesterday saw the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence here in the country. First of all, I mean, we've seen many cases reported, many cases of gender-based violence being reported here in the country, and it raises a lot of concerns. Now, first of all, these are issues that we've been talking about for a very long time. There have been, policies, talks about policies that need to be formulated, what needs to be done, but we seem to be talking about the same thing time and again and again. So from where you sit to begin with, do you feel we've made progress as a country in trying to tackle cases of gender-based violence?
Thank you so much for having me, Ian. First, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund is a fund, is a state agency under the Ministry of Gender, Culture and the Heritage. And it was actually formed to redress past and emerging issues. In gender-based violence, one of the things that we do, we enhance access to services to survivors of GBV, FGM, all types of violence, and partly through the construction of shelters and also through the support of the women leaders. But the question you've asked, have we done enough? Have we moved the needle? And that is why this year, and especially with heightened femicide deaths, with the numbers rising every day, we called ourselves and said, we all need to have a national conversation as a country. We might point the finger to maybe the police, we might point the finger maybe to someone else, but it's really us as a nation, as a community. How I live with you, Ian, how I live with Josephine, how we live in our homes. And that is why you saw some of the things that we are rising up in this season is telling each other enough is enough. Let us set a new trajectory. And that new trajectory is not going to be set by only the leaders or the government. It is us, the way we live with each other. The amount of violence that goes through social media, that goes through X, is a lot of violence. And that erupts. You find people killing themselves out of that violence. You find violence at home is a lot. So it cannot be that it's government that is pushing us to have this violence. No, it is us ourselves. It's emanating from ourselves. What can we do as a nation to live together peacefully, to live with you, Ian? If we are married, to live with my husband and be able to understand each other and grow together, and not wake up one day and start beating you, breaking your bones, killing the other. So the biggest thing and the biggest aspect of these 16 days of activism is actually to call ourselves to a national conversation. Me and you, how do I live with you? Do my conversations evoke anger consistently, or how do I live with you? And with that now also comes the other mechanisms that are put in place with government. Are they enough? Every day we keep moving the needle on this mechanism. And that is why in this national conversation that we are calling each other as National Government Affirmative Action Fund, is also for you to contribute and say, this policy is not working, change here, tweak here, this law is not working, do it like this, so that it doesn't come back that, oh, the government did A, B, C, D, and this law does not particularly work. Who did you ask?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, allow me to call you Wanjiru. Now, as a gender activist, many have attributed cases of gender-based violence, and of course, when we talk about gender-based violence, it's cutting across board. But as a gender activist, many people when we talk about gender-based violence, many people, that's attributed to probably moral decay or, cases of criminal acts. But from where you sit, what can you attribute these cases of gender-based violence to, especially here in the country?
Thank you, first of all, for having me, Ian, and K24 for always having me. And I'm not just a gender activist, I'm a youth, PWD, and gender activist. In fact, I wore purple today in honor of National Epilepsy Awareness Month. It's so nice that you also wore purple. Yeah.
Such a coincidence.
It's such a coincidence. So yes. So to answer your question, first of all, I want to also echo what she said. Gender-based violence, as you said also, is not just women against women. We don't have even just, it's not binary, it's cisgender, transgender, and all these people have experienced violence in a certain way in their lives. In fact, a report on WHO says 1 in every 3 women globally have experienced either physical or sexual violence. And here in the country at the moment, when we have this 16 days of activism, which is, by the way, a worldwide activist movement, not just a Kenyan activist movement, also run by the UN Women, and I'm so proud that you have me here for that. What we have right now is a prevalence of femicide cases, women being killed, but then there's also other gender-based violence cases, such as even child marriages, transmission of diseases, sex trafficking. All of those are gender-based violence cases on top of the worst, and that is the one we see, which is femicide. And I attribute it to what she said. It's a systemic, it's rotting in the system. For example, in 2022, do you know that in Rwanda, they did a survey, and Rwandese women, 65% of Rwandese women said that it is okay for women to be beaten in their marriage. Out of the 65, 18% said it's okay for women to be beaten if they don't cook correctly. And that's insane. Already, that's a systemic problem within the mindset of women themselves. Well, that's also something we're trying to fight. We're not just trying to fight the action.
Is it something we can also attribute to, patriarchy? Because so many communities believe that, probably husbands do have to teach or discipline their wives through beatings, and that is not the way to go.
Exactly. See, it's systemic, because you see, I usually say, maybe you can quote me or not, I usually say, we're in a system that has been developed by men. Take, for example, I'm a Kikuyu. In my tradition, we have our first parents, Gikuyu and Mumbi. And Gikuyu and Mumbi had 9 daughters. And when they were big, that's when God said, create husbands for them. And our clans are named after women. But tell me why I am taking my man's name, my husband's name, in a clan that's already bred by women, named after women, and such of you. Tell me why, in my tradition, the man takes the meatiest parts of the goat and the chicken. Because it's a system that was developed by men. And every one of these things, even the mindsets, is a system developed by men. Right now, we are fighting so much on X for the mindsets of saying, these daughters of Jezebel, as they call them, daughters of Jezebel, they will say anything, they will shout thief just so that people can come to them. But I was even asking someone, why is it that when a woman is attacking a man, we don't know what came from that story, but if the woman screams and the man screams, who are you to believe? It's probably the woman, right? So you'll attack the man, probably the man is the one who's... And people are saying, you women, you always say we judge, we don't want to hear both sides of the story. True. But why is it that we listen to the women? It's because of the prevalence of already the fact that a man is physically stronger and a man is more likely to have been the one to harm the woman. And already now that's ingrained in our system, such that now we are reacting to the fact that the man is probably the one in the wrong.
Okay.
It's already a systemic disturbance.
Fair enough. I think a case in point is the ongoing case of the lady who was attacked by the husband, who's an evangelist in Nakuru. And of course, investigations are ongoing. I wouldn't want to talk much about a case that is under active investigation. But coming back to you, Veridiana, you've talked about we cannot blame the police, we cannot blame who, it's a collective responsibility. But let me just pinpoint a case in point. And the matter of, let's talk about femicide for a moment. And the matter of student Rita Waini, which happened on the 14th of January 2024. We are on the 26th of November 2024, over at least 10 months now. But according to Police IG Douglas Kanja, the perpetrator is yet to be brought to book, yet to even be arrested. Well, many argue that that is also a lapse in the investigative agencies in trying to ensure that we bring these cases to an end by ensuring the perpetrators are brought to book.
Yes. And that's true to what you're saying. Really, these cases must be prosecuted as fast as possible. And that is what we're saying. Where is this lapse and what can we work around that? It is not a blame game. It's actually pointing out where we need to find solutions. If it's within the investigative agencies, then we need to find solutions. Do we need to come up with a clear law or a code red? I do believe that is the Italian government has a code red where these kinds of cases are actually prosecuted at a very fast rate, because especially with cases like this for gender-based violence, you find that even when time lapses, there is delayed justice. Once that happens, you find the person who is the victim does not get the justice they require. And then especially when people are reporting and the investigative agencies are not taking a keen interest into it, you'll find now it escalates to the death, because people report. And we had a story we carried on yesterday as NGAF, a story of one of the actors, Alicia. And she said she used to sleep even with knives under her bed. Why? Because she knew the husband was going to attack her. And she would have to protect or hide all the knives under her pillow or under her bed so that it's not found. And she had been reporting this to the police until whenever she would go, they would say, you are that lady, you are that lady. But then you see you're branded, you're that lady or you're that man, but there's no justice happening. So you see, GBV, gender-based violence, is actually a very, very sensitive, issue. And the way we prosecute needs to be to have a different consideration and a fast tracking of how to get the evidence, how to ensure that it comes to an end. But we find that there is that gap there. Is there a way we can actually enhance our laws and regulations to ensure that we are able to prosecute these cases as fast as possible?
Okay, fair enough. Now, coming back to you, Wanjiru, there are claims that probably the judicial system is a bit sluggish, and there's the aspect of investigative agencies. Of course, they are mandated to do investigations and now ensure that the perpetrators face justice and they're taken to court. But there are concerns about whether the judicial system is a bit sluggish in handling cases of perpetrators of gender-based violence. Now, according to police, Deputy Inspector General of Police, that is Mr. Eliud Lagat, like I said, in the months preceding November, that is August, September, and October, 97 cases of femicide were reported. But according to the statistics that we have, only 2 have been dealt with. They're living around 95 cases. From where you sit, how can we handle or tackle these hurdles? Because these are hurdles in trying to ensure that we bring to an end cases of gender-based violence. So how do we tackle these hurdles?
Well, you're completely right. I mean, the fact that I didn't know that only 2 have been dealt with, that is insane. 2 out of 97 is absolutely insane. And I will concur with Vivian. I mean, we should probably have, you called it a quadrant?
Italy have a quadrant.
A quadrant, yes, you see.
We need,
Because, for example, just to show how sensitive these cases are, the case you've just mentioned of a church minister and the wife that is currently ongoing investigations, I will also not comment so much, but as the allegations, if the allegations are true, is that even after whatever the man did to the woman, and she was taken to hospital and is under treatment, the man showed up to the hospital to cause even more harm, and was even boasting and thumping his chest, saying, there's really nothing you can do with me because I have connections. What does that connections mean? Connections to the judicial system. I do not think that there should be any connections when it comes to the judicial system. If you're hurting a man, hurting a woman, hurting a transgender man or transgender woman, cisgender man, cisgender woman, these cases should be handled with as much efficiency as the government handled the case of Rigathi Gachagua and his impeachment. That's how quick, because it's so sensitive. If you harm me today and I get to escape, what makes you think that you won't harm me tomorrow, just as the lady Florence was going through? This is a serious matter that should be taken seriously by the judicial systems, and if only two have been dealt with, whether convicted or acquitted, then it shows a big gap. And if this, we are putting so much funding, you know, in awareness and telling people, now we have 100 million by the president in a safe home, safe space campaign, mostly targeting awareness and what she talked about, making a safe space and safe haven. We should also have a lot of funding. We should see the government come in, having funding to make sure that the judicial system is also equipped enough to constantly have judges, constantly have people and lawyers, also lawyers who can, because most of the people who go through gender-based violence cannot come to a lawyer and tell them, you know, I have this thing, and be able to pay them, and probably don't even know the systems. Should also have access to these judicial privileges, pro bono lawyers, in order to assist them to bring these people to justice.
Now, fair enough. Viridiana, just to look at the statistics, which is according to Femicide Count Kenya, because I want us to finish on the issue of femicide before we talk about other things. Between January and October of 2022, 58 cases of femicide-related deaths were reported. In 2023, at least 152 related femicide deaths were reported. When you look at that particular number, it's a very high number. We cannot, even if it's true that we should not be talking about cases of, you know, femicide in the country. We've seen athletes by their partners. We have the case of it's unfortunate that I come from that particular place in U10. We saw the murder of Agnes Tirop. We saw the murder of Damaris Mutua. We've seen also the Cheptegei story. Now, there was the issue. The three women who were murdered in Eastleigh. The three, they're related. The mother, the daughter, and the niece who were murdered in Eastleigh. Now, women leaders, because one of the roles of, you know, women leaders is also trying to ensure that we have proper laws, because MPs, legislators, are lawmakers, to try and ensure that we have, you know, frameworks to deal with these particular issues. Have they done enough?
Thank you, Ian. And indeed, it's very sad, especially when you see such numbers of femicide. Again, just to reiterate, when we had the cases, especially with the athletes, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund joined hands with Athletics Kenya to actually go to the camps or to go to these regions to really find out what is going on. And even before the presidential State of the Nation address, when he tasked the deputy president to form multi-sectorial task force, we were already doing the sectorial task force with Athletics Kenya to just get to the deep matter of what is going on. And I would like to echo what Wanjiru has said. And basically, you find that especially the men within power, who have power, are the perpetrators of GBV. And you find they say, I have the money, I have the police in my pocket, I have the lawyers in my pocket, so there's nothing you can do. And stories, when we were even having these stories with athletes, and you find that most athletes also come from the police service. You find a lady tells you, he told me I have a gun, I can shoot you. You know, you've taken him to the police several times. He says, I have the lawyers in my pocket. Where do you go as a woman? You find the most perpetrators of GBV are most people who are economically well, you know, and you find on the other side, you find these are people who are not financially well or economically well. Okay. And that now becomes the biggest issue, because the biggest perpetrators are actually the people with money, with power, and with access to all these systems that can work for them. But the people who are being attacked, especially within a home, are people maybe who will struggle to get the system to hear them. And therefore, we also have to find a way that the leaders and the people in positions of power are actually calling themselves to a meeting and being able to not perpetrate that violence. Coming back to the issue of women leaders and them being able to really pass laws that ensure that the community is actually well taken care of. Indeed, the women representative sits, and I was hoping Honorable Elizabeth would have been here. Are they doing enough? I would say that they're doing what they can be able to do within the scenario they have. But can they do more? Yes, they can. They can actually structure in a manner that they champion for particular laws within the system, because they came in through affirmative action, where they said these are the things that these women reps or this cluster of people needs to champion for. So it is also for us to make them aware that they need to be able to champion for particular laws and regulations from a collective perspective. And yes, they might have fallen short of, or they might do the things similar to the way the general MPs do, but then they have a very special mandate that they need to be able to now start thinking, what exactly is our special mandate? And what are these laws and regulations do we need to push? We need to see all the 47 women reps rallying, and now the women reps, the other women legislators rallying behind each other and actually standing up and saying, we need to have this particular law done like this and like this. So in looking at it, there are gaps, but we need to actually strengthen our interventions. Yeah.
Fair enough. I want to ask you, Wanjiru, the same question, but I just want us to take a brief breather. But before we do, I just also wanted to pick your mind in regards to what do you need? What do you think female legislators need to do, especially the 47 women representatives across the country, to ensure that the issues of gender-based violence, and to be specific, cases of femicide here in the country, are well dealt with? Because, like she says, it is indeed true that there are gaps. But what do we need to do to ensure that we eradicate or do away with these particular gaps in ensuring that we create laws, or they create laws that will enhance and help tackling cases of femicide here in the country? That will be after this brief breather. Don't go away, because I'd also want us to talk about the issue of funding, because a few days ago, last week to be specific, we saw President William Ruto promising to set aside 100 million Kenya shillings to help in the fight of femicide here in the country. But yesterday we saw MPs, a section of MPs in the National Assembly, saying that is a good start, but 100 million is not enough. We need more funds to be allocated more specifically to the National Government Affirmative Action Fund to ensure that we can be able to deal with these menace once and for all. That will be after this brief breather. Don't go away.
Mr. DJ, Mr. DJ. Blackie.